This is the statistics non-calculator set B, set of questions. So let's have a look at this. After it's very, very similar to set A. So if you've done set A, after doing set A and after fully understanding it, this should be really straightforward. So make sure you did fully understand set A before you did this. Okay, so let's actually have a look at these questions. Let me just get the pen up. The first question is work out the modal class. So the modal class is the class with the biggest frequency. The class with the biggest frequency, in this case, the biggest frequency is 18, so the class with the biggest frequency is going to be 170 to 180. Pretty straightforward. You should be able to do that without a problem and get the mark available for that. Which class contains the median? As we read the question, we should have noticed that there were 60 students altogether. That means all of these numbers should add up to 60. You can add them up yourselves, but save time, read the question, you see that they add up to 60. If I do a sort of cumulative total on the side here, so 4 plus 12 is 16, I haven't come across the halfway value. The halfway value where my median is number 30, so I'm up to 16 here. 16 add 15 is 31. So my 30th value is going to be in this group here, 60 to 70, 160 to 170, and there it is. Okay, I've written all the rest instead because I'm going to use them later on for the cumulative frequency question. So here is 160 to 170. Really, really important. Remember, for whenever you're doing a frequency polygon, it's midpoint versus frequency, right? So you plot the midpoint against the frequency. Find the midpoints of each of these groups, 145, 155, 165, 175, 185, and 195. I'm going to plot each of those, so 145, I'm going to plot that up to 4. Now read the scale carefully. Every 2 squares stands for 1, right? They do try hard to catch you out with that, so make sure you actually look out for it. 155 goes up to 16, so go up to 15 and 2 squares further. Sorry, you plot it against the frequency, so go up to 10 and 4 squares above that, so that's 12. Yeah, and then go to 165 and then up to 15. That's pretty straightforward. Then go up to 175 and up to 18. Yeah, now 18 is going to be 4 squares below the 20 line. 185, that's going to be 8, so 4 squares below 10. And then 190 is 3, so that's going to be 6 tiny squares up, and that's 195. Okay, now make sure you're able to do that. A lot of you are. Do take your time. Make sure you're looking at the right things. You're looking at the frequency and the midpoints. So those two things there, the frequency and the midpoints. Join them up with straight lines using a ruler and a pencil. Make sure you do that, ruler and a pencil and straight lines. Question 5. This is a typical style of these probability questions. We know that the probabilities all add up to 1. Let's add up what's available. 0.4 and 0.3 is 0.7. So that means that the 2 blank spaces which we are told are the same, right? The probability for 2 and the probability of 4, they're the same. So 1 take away 0.7 is 0.3. And I need to divide that by 2, which gives me 0.15. So that's the probability and the value of x, the probability of getting a 4 or a 2. I'm going to spin a spinner 150 times, so that's a clue there, 150 times. What's the probability of getting a 3? Probability of getting a 3 is 3, so 150 times 3. Remember the technique that I showed you? 15 times 3 is 45. I'm going to add a 0 on because of that 0 there. That's 1 decimal place here, so I'm going to take 1 decimal place off, and it's going to be 45.0, in other words, just 45. Okay, question 7. Okay, on the grid, draw a cumulative frequency graph for the curve. Now, the cumulative frequency numbers, I worked them out earlier when I was finding the median, but you could work them out again, right, as you add up those numbers. I'm going to plot the cumulative frequency against the upper bound. So these values at the top end there. Look at the scale. This time this scale here is going 1 up. So every tiny square stands for 1. And going up on the cumulative frequency, every tiny square stands for 1 as well. Plot the points. Take your time as you plotted them. And then use a pencil to draw a smooth curve through them all. Okay. This is a very common question. You're very likely to get this in the exam. Part 8 says use the cumulative frequency graph to find the median. I always put a marker at the highest value. The highest value here is 60, so half of that is 30. Write it down, draw a line going across, and then down, and I'm picking up 169. Don't worry if your value is slightly off from that. Okay, now I need to work out the lower quartile and the upper quartile. The lower quartile is half of 30, which is 15. If I go across from there and then down, I'm picking up 160. Okay, to work out how I find the upper quartile, I'm going to add these two numbers, 15 and 30. That the numbers I use for my median and my lower quartile. And so I'm going to go across from 45. That there is going to give me 77. If your numbers are slightly out from mine, that's not a problem. One or two out, the examiners have a margin of error for this. For question 10, I want to work out the interquartile range. Interquartile is upper quartile, take away lower quartile. Again, always write this down. Now I'm just going to do the maths. 177 take away 160, which is 17. All right, make sure you're okay with that, and make sure you can get that. And remember that the upper quartile, take away the lower quartile, is the interquartile range. Question 11. Find an estimate for the number of students whose heights is more than 180. So find 180, go up the axis to the curve, and then across. Right. Once I go across, I'm going to put a marker where I've got there. That's 49. Remember, as we did last time, because it said more than, I need to know the size of that gap there. So that's 60 take away 49, which is 11. And that's my answer for this part. Okay, make sure you know how to do it and you're totally comfortable with that. As I said before, questions 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, they all make up a whole question. It usually has about 4 or 5 parts in it, and it could be up to 7 marks for the whole question. So make sure you're able to get full marks in something like this. Question 12, we need to compare the box plots. So if I look at what the medians are, the boys' median is 30, the girls' median is 40. So I'm simply going to say the boys' median 30 is less than the girls' median, which is 40. Give some numbers in your explanation. If I want to work out the range now, the range for boys is 70 take away 10, which is 60. The range for girls is 60 take away 20, which is 40. Show this working, and then write your comparison. The boys' range 60 is bigger than the girls' range 40. As I said the last time, always put your answer in context. If they're talking about marks or heights or weights, make sure you actually put your answer in context. Sometimes there's a star next to this question. Make sure you're fine with it and you're okay and you know how to do this. Okay, go on and try sheet C and sheet D before you check the answers, because they're very similar and they just test you that you really do understand these.